There is not one AI app or AI project that will on its own bring us to the next frontier, next level. We need the ecosystem to work. We need infra. We need infrastructure. What does that mean? There are obviously a million different projects out there building some version of AI infra, Web3 AI infra. What will it take to get us to that next phase of true mainstream adoption? So I am thrilled by the dream team we have to explore that today. Please welcome David Fields, Lele, Eric Weiner, Nicolas and Sam Ewan, my colleague at CoinDesk. Thank you.
Look at all these humans. This is very exciting. Raise your hand if you're an agent. All right, we got a couple. Welcome. We'll try to speak in binary for you. What a wonderful panel. I'm very excited to be able to moderate this with these four brilliant people. I'm going to learn a lot. I'm Sam Ewan from CoinDesk. I head up the innovation practice, so I'm going to take a lot of notes on what we're talking about today. But I would love, Lele, let's start with you. Just give us the 20-second who you are, and then we'll go down the panel.
Sure. Really great to see everyone. I love Toronto.
Bybit chơi lớn tặng ngay 600 cái đồng NXPC xấp xỉ 1.400 đô hoàn toàn free cho người dùng mới. Tham gia siêu dễ, chỉ mất 1 phút là nhận quà liền tay. Ok, để mà bắt đầu tham gia được cái sự kiện này thì anh em sẽ phải có cho mình một cái tài khoản sàn Bybit trước. Thì cái link đăng ký mình sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video, hoặc là anh em cũng có thể nhập cái mã mời là Văn Tùng 1 viết liền không dấu giúp mình. Đặc biệt là khi anh em mà đăng ký dưới cái link của bên mình ấy, thì anh em sẽ được giảm thêm 50% phí giao dịch trọn đời. Ở cái mục đăng ký nó sẽ có 2 mục, một là email, hai là số điện thoại này, thì anh em nhập cái nào cũng được. Sau khi mà anh em đăng ký xong ấy thì anh em sẽ bấm đăng nhập. Nó sẽ ra một cái giao diện như sau, thì mọi người sẽ bấm vào cái mục là trung tâm phần thưởng này. Tiếp đó thì mọi người sẽ kéo xuống dưới giúp mình. Đây là các cái sự kiện, các cái phần thưởng airdrop cho người dùng. Mọi người sẽ bấm vào cái đồng NXPC. Đó, đây chính là cái giao diện chính. Ok, cái sự kiện này là nạp và giao dịch để kiếm cái tổng thưởng đó lên tới là 9 triệu cái đồng NXPC này. Thì ở đây nó có hai cái nhiệm vụ như sau. Ở đây thì là mọi người cũng có thể là làm một trong hai cái nhiệm vụ này đều được. Nhiệm vụ đầu tiên ấy, đó là nạp là 1.800 cái đồng NXPC này. Cái nhiệm vụ thứ hai ấy, tức là mọi người làm một trong hai nhiệm vụ đều được. Cái nhiệm vụ thứ hai là nạp 100 USDT và giao dịch 100 USDT của cái đồng NXPC này. Tức là cái gì? Mọi người nạp 100 đô nhá, và mọi người giao dịch 100 USDT cái khối lượng ấy. Với cái đồng NXPC này ở trong cái giao dịch spot, giao dịch giao ngay ấy, thì mọi người sẽ earn được là 600 cái đồng NXPC này. Mình sẽ check giá xem 600 cái đồng NXPC này nó là bao nhiêu. Cái giá hiện tại của nó đang là 2.29 này. Thì loanh quanh mọi người sẽ nhận được là 1.372 USDT hoàn toàn miễn phí nhá. Cái này đăng ký khá là dễ. Đấy. Thì cái link đăng ký và cái mã mời mình sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video.
So I'm Lele. I'm VP and Head of Business Development at Kite AI. Kite AI is an AI layer 1 focused on building an open marketplace for agents, models, and data. And myself, I come from more of a TradFi background. I worked on Wall Street for over 10 years and came to the blockchain space about 5 years ago.
Eric?
Hey, I'm Eric Weiner. I'm the CTO of Near AI. Near AI is kind of an offshoot of the Near protocol and L1, but we're focused on building a framework for AI agent hosting, for agents to talk to other agents, transact, pay, and the app layer on top of that.
Hi, I'm David Fields. I'm co-founder and CEO at Ready AI. We're focused on structuring all the world's data and making it universally accessible to AI. And we're built on BitTensor, one of the leading crypto AI protocols.
Hi, I'm Nicolas. I am one of the two founders of PINETWORK and heading the technology. PINETWORK is a social network with tens of millions of people with its own embedded cryptocurrency, Pi. People have been mining it for the last more than 6 years now. They have been using it. They have been creating apps. And one unique feature about Pi is that every account on the blockchain, before it's activated, it needs to pass identity verification.
All right, so what I want to start with, and again, you can give me a really short answer, is in the worlds that each of you are playing within the infra side and in AI, I wanted you to give me kind of the analogous place we are in the technology spectrum, right? So if we think of YouTube and streaming video, are we still the VHS era when it comes to what we're doing? So Nick, let's start with you.
Oh, wow. So that's a good question. So I think that every time in history, there's technologies that are being invented, and then there's a little bit of lag and a little bit of time between when they are invented and they are actually being massively used. So that's where we are with Gen AI. So especially with the generative AI and AI in general, there has been a leap forward, a breakthrough in what the models can achieve. And now is the time to build great apps and great products with them. In the same way that, when electricity was created, not every house had it, not every industrialization wasn't there, or when the combustion engine was there, not everyone had a car. What was the exact product was not really known. So that's where we are right now. It's an exciting time to live.
All right, we're at the combustion engine. That's what I'm taking away from this. David, where are we right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot about this. I sort of feel like we're, in the kind of mid-90s of the internet. But one big difference is there's massive distribution, right, that's been laid over the last 25 years since then. And so I think because of that, you've seen, some unbelievable growth in, from 0 to 100 million in revenue by the, OpenAI, but then Cursor doing it like, in record time. And that's because distribution is now dramatically different than what it was then. And I think it's going to accelerate the pace at which we see AI uptake.
Eric, where are we?
I think that's a really good point. I love that we're all coming up with different analogies here. The one I like is, you remember when the iPhone came out and then they put the App Store on there, and then you're like, oh my God, you can do this thing where you drink a beer and it kind of falls out of the iPhone, or you can download a song straight to your phone. It can't get better than this. This is, wow, look, you can do all these amazing things, and it turns out that another 15 years of amazing things you can build. We're at that stage where it feels like you're doing so much, but it's really just scratching the surface. And to your guys' points, it's going to accelerate even faster this time, faster than we can maybe handle.
Lei?
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of has already been said. I think that we're in the age of agents. So, before it was about desktop or web, then came the era of mobile, and now is the time for agents. And a lot of things have happened to make that a lot easier. Better agent frameworks like MCP, A2A, lower inference costs, stronger foundation models. And so we'll see a lot more of that to come. But I think it is really important to have more of a trust framework for humans to interact with agents, and also agents to autonomously interact with agents as well.
And Lei, I want to pull on that thread a little bit. I feel like we're still at the the rotary phone when it comes to agentic AI. I'm frightened about what's going to happen in the same way that I'm turned on by it, right? I want agentic AI, but I'm very scared of what it's going to do when it stops asking for permission. So as you guys are building your systems, how are you kind of putting into place the guardrails that allow agentic AI to thrive without letting it do the things we don't want it to do in the movies we've seen about the future?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. That's also where blockchain is very helpful, because the blockchain allows for a lot of the attribution, provenance on-chain. You can track how an agent was created from the data that went into the agents, the model builders, and you can also have a lot of smart contracts have programmable logic, which serves as a service agreement, which helps you check the performance of agents, potentially resolve disputes as well. And of course, the blockchain provides a payment rails, because for agents, it's very difficult to access credit cards or someone's bank accounts, but stablecoin and blockchain rails is a natural fit for that.
Mời THắC chơi lớn anh em ơi, tặng hẳn một chiếc Vespa 150 và vô vàn các cái phần quà khác nhau. Các cái bước đăng ký thì cực kỳ là đơn giản, ai cũng tham gia được. Đầu tiên thì mọi người sẽ phải đăng ký cho mình một cái tài khoản sàn THắC trước. Thì cái link đăng ký mình sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video. Hoặc là anh em cũng có thể nhập là cái mã mời là THắC_Văn Tùng. Sau khi mà anh em đăng ký xong ấy, thì anh em sẽ nhận luôn là 10 USDT tiền tươi, 10 đô tiền tươi. Sau khi mà đăng ký xong ấy, thì mọi người sẽ đăng nhập. Thì cái đường link của cái sự kiện này mình sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video để cho anh em tiện sử dụng. Đây là các cái phần quà với các cái số điểm tương ứng. Thế thì làm thế nào mà để mọi người nhận được các cái số điểm này? Thì cái yêu cầu của người ta ấy là chúng ta sẽ phải đi giao dịch future. Ở đây ấy, thì là mọi người sẽ phải nạp ít nhất là 100 USDT. Sau đó thì mọi người sẽ chuyển từ spot vào future. Sau khi mọi người đạt cái khối lượng giao dịch ấy, tức là mọi người đạt cái volume giao dịch ở trong cái mục future này, 30.000 điểm tương đương với là mọi người sẽ nhận được 3 điểm. 50.000 đô cái khối lượng ấy, cái volume thì mọi người sẽ nhận được tương ứng là 7 điểm. Tương tự như là 100.000 đô thì mọi người sẽ nhận được 10 điểm. Đấy, mọi người giao dịch càng nhiều thì mọi người sẽ nhận được càng nhiều điểm, và tương ứng với các cái số điểm đấy thì mọi người cũng sẽ là đổi được các cái phần quà tương ứng. Thì mọi người có thể là vào thêm cái sự kiện này để mọi người đọc thêm, mọi người không hiểu chỗ nào hoặc là mọi người có cái chỗ nào thắc mắc thì mọi người sẽ comment dưới phần mô tả của video. Cái đường link của cái sự kiện này thì mình cũng sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video. Mọi người có thể để vào đó để mọi người đọc thêm và mọi người làm theo. Chúc mọi người thành công.
Nicolas, the PINETWORK has millions of people. We found this out the hard way when we were announcing your panel. They went crazy. I don't know how many of them are synthetic. I don't know how many of them are real. But in dealing with the vast numbers that you're dealing with, are you worried that at some point it kind of goes out of control, where this massive, this group mass starts to do the things it wants to do, whether you want it or not?
Yeah, that's a problem and challenge not only for Pi, but for the world going forward, because now with generative AI, it's becoming less and less easy to distinguish a real human from AI. AI used to be pretty dumb, you could tell immediately, but now it's not that easy. So Pi opted for following a unique approach, which was to KYC every single individual using identity verification, turning your head left and right, and all that interesting stuff. And we think that this approach is going to be very useful, especially in the future, when you want to distinguish between 1,000 fake bots and 1,000 real people, especially in a world where you want to be able to meritocratically and fairly distribute value or other applications like this. You need to be able to identify who is human and who is not.
You know, David, we're talking backstage about what true proof of humanity means, especially at the enterprise level that I know you guys are playing at. So how important is it to allow that the human can have a touch on the AI systems that are being built?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting, question. So, we do a lot in terms of structuring data for enterprise, and the big sort of why now for us was we saw a crossing point between where LLMs could do a lot of these data annotation tasks more effectively than humans. And so we enable a competitive landscape. It's decentralized, it's permissionless. We tap into global intelligence around the world. People can run their own models to do these data annotations, and we're seeing people perform these at 86% higher accuracy than humans, and we're doing 51% higher than kind of GPT's best models because they're optimized for this use case. And so I kind of see a bifurcation happening. There's a lot of data structuring that needs to be done at massive scale. The largest companies in the world have decades of data that they need to structure for AI models and AI applications. So that can't all be done by humans. But I think we don't really play as much in the other side, which I think is quite important, which is more of the kind of human annotation, human labeling. That's being done more and more with higher skilled areas. But we were talking a little bit backstage, well, where does that crossing point happen for some of those higher skilled labor points? Is that 3 years? Is that 10 years? Is it 20 years? But AIs are getting smarter at a crazy accelerating pace.
Eric, I want to ask you about the idea of decentralization. So Near is so early, was one of the pioneers in the idea of AI in decentralization. Ilya's been talking about this forever. I find it hard in the world outside of this room to talk about why decentralization matters in the AI system. When, when 400 million people are comfortable going to ChatGPT or use Grok or use Gemini, why do we need decentralization, especially in the context of this agentic conversation?
Sure. I think of two things. First of all, I think it's more developers and enterprises that would drive decentralization than it is the actual end users. I like WhatsApp as an example here. Most people, like WhatsApp has billions of users, and they adopt a lot of the end-to-end encryption tech that's used in Signal. People who are really paranoid about security, they tend to use Signal, but more people are using WhatsApp, and it's great that WhatsApp at least purports to care about that. Similarly, like, you can convince developers that these principles are important, and they will pass it on to their users and convince their users. Secondly, as there's more autonomous agents going around, that is just an absolute superpower. Once you have a network of autonomous agents communicating with each other, I think there's so many unlocks there, and a lot of those unlocks have existed since blockchains have really come into prominence. There's nothing you necessarily can't do with a beginner Ethereum smart contract. But once AI agents are talking to other AI agents and negotiating how they're going to transact, how they're going to get something done, how they're going to check each other's work, that's just another opportunity for crypto adoption. That's another opportunity for where a human might be like, I'm not going to bother, we're just going to sign an escrow contract, or I'm not going to bother, I'm going to give you my credit card number. And AI is going to say, well, let's use a digital native payment system. Let's use a smart contract here. I think it's a whole nother adoption unlock for the world of decentralization.
But to push back, I mean, crypto adoption at some point we're going to stop talking about, right? I think about what is happening with I spoke to Revolut last week. Revolut has 52 million users. 15 million of them have been involved with crypto transactions. They're just thinking they're playing in finance, right? So I guess, how important is it for the masses? Again, you guys are building infra, but how important is it for the masses to even have to understand that decentralization matters?
Oh, not at all. Any more than just in my previous example, most people even know what end-to-end encryption is. It's up to us to get ourselves out of the mindset of we need to be pushing crypto and into the mindset of we need to be pushing amazing applications, amazing use cases to people, and that just happen to be built on these principles. We're not going to win by pushing the principles. We're only going to win by making better stuff.
So, I mean, Nicolas, when you're talking to the Pi Army, and they're vocal, are they vocal about decentralization, or are they vocal about Pi?
So I think that in general, when we're thinking of decentralization and AI, and there's another aspect to it. There is, of course, the technical challenges and how we can embed this into technology, how we can do all the training, how we can distribute the rewards. But there is also the concept of value capture. So in a future where more and more work is done by agents and by AI, it is important to make sure that the value is not only captured by a few individuals or a few companies, and it can be captured by a large number of people. And that's where blockchain and our projects can come to play. And the founders of those projects and the people who are working on it need to come to think about how blockchain can help with the value capture.
So, when we think of building an agentic strategy, what are the 3 things that you need to know in order to be successful with that?
Yeah. Well, I think also just going back to your question about decentralization, for users, I don't think they necessarily care so much about decentralization. But what I do care about is, what are you doing with my data? How are you using it? And I think that's been one of the biggest criticisms of a lot of centralized companies. And there have been a lot of lawsuits as well in terms of taking user data and training models behind the scenes. Also, I would love to get rewarded if you're using something that I have produced or I've interacted with to train an agent that then comes back and targets myself as well. And I think that's really important for a lot of the different consumers out there. And then also in the centralized world, you are at the mercy of a lot of the pricing and rate limits. And for example, we were just about to launch our new testnet and featuring some of our partner agents. And a rate limit and pricing issue immediately came up from kind of the core foundation model. So I think those things are very important for people.
But I still look at the fact that people are utilizing Spotify to listen to music, Netflix to watch videos, ChatGPT to do their OpenAI, their conversations with an LLM. And I don't think those users are thinking through the lens of, wait, do I get rewarded for what I'm giving in? I'm frightened by what ChatGPT knows about me, right? And I do it every day, and I willingly give that. And so I guess I hear you, and I think we all agree in theory, but I think in practice, big tech has shown us that people are much more interested in convenience than they are about that security. Am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I think the biggest criticism about the blockchain space and something we need to collectively, do better about is still the user experience. I think Eric, mentioned it before. We really need to build for the users. How do I make it easy? People are going to use something that is easy to use. So, still kind of like the wallets, gas fees, a very decentralized ecosystem. Those are some of the things that we collectively as builders need to improve on.
All right, so David, again, you guys think about this to the enterprise level. How do you truly build a enterprise-grade app utilizing the decentralized tools of AI?
Yeah, so I mean, just to touch on sort of the decentralized point, I mean, I've been in crypto for 12 plus years now, and I think most of us who have been here for a while care about these things, but I think I've seen time and time again that users, especially retail or consumers, don't typically care about these things. They're sharing information sort of at will with the Googles of the world and now the ChatGPTs. What is interesting on the enterprise side, small to large scale, is data is really valuable, really matters. And decentralization, I think, has the potential to be a feature, not a bug. And I think we're in the early stages of sort of educating enterprises on why that's the case, but many of them are already inherently concerned about sharing their data with OpenAI because now that's helping to power their next models and maybe disrupts their business in some way. So that gets me excited about the power of decentralization for enterprise specifically, kind of at small to large scale.
All right, so Eric, I'm going to ask you, Near is a blockchain that has gone through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of interesting evolutions. Again, always focus on what you're doing. A lot of the crypto Twitter conversation is around token price, right? And I keep wondering, when we think of the stuff that everyone's building on stage here, there's still a token component. There's still the idea that you will financialize your participation in the network. And I think we all believe in that. But does that also end up being something where it still ends up being easier to say, I'll pay $9.95 a month and not worry, compared to, oh, I have to do more work? And should we sort of try to divorce the idea that what's good for the world doesn't always have to be financialized, and that decentralization, to David's point, is something that actually makes us all better? And I guess, how do we do that?
I think as you get lower level, you tend to be a little bit more, you tend to use more like rational micropayment models. And this is true in the Web 2 space and in the Web 3 space and in the offline space. If I'm buying something in bulk, I'm going to pay in a certain way. If you're on AWS, you're paying per minute or paying per function call. And similarly in the crypto space, you're paying per transaction, storage fees and such, and that makes total sense. I think where we've faltered is we don't put any layers between that and the user. And so yeah, like I think again, like the end user is still subject to all those behavioral factors. I would rather pay $10 a month and get $4.79, then feel like I'm a value, then feel like I'm getting nickel and dimed my way up from 0 to $4.79. I'll pay the extra $6 for that. It's fine. But under the hood, and again, especially when you're relying on an AI agent working on your behalf to help make these decisions, to figure out what tools to use and how to pay for them, the AI agent is not subject to those behavioral factors. And it is willing to say, well, I do want to participate. Like, I'm going to pay the minimum possible for this, and I'm going to pay individually for this thing, and I'm going to micro pay over there, and I need my rewards because I want to, optimize my own cost and sort of my own P&L, whether it's trading or just sort of working on your behalf to do its job. So I think that's really valuable, and I don't think it should go all the way up to the user level.
Sự kiện 25 đô hoàn toàn miễn phí cùng sàn BitGP, sàn con của sàn BitGet. Các cái bước đăng ký thì cực kỳ là đơn giản, chưa đến 1 phút là anh em sẽ nhận về 25 đô tiền tươi. Ok, để mà tham dự được cái sự kiện này thì anh em sẽ phải có cho mình, đăng ký cho mình một cái tài khoản sàn BitGP trước. Thì cái link đăng ký mình sẽ để dưới phần mô tả của video. Hoặc là anh em cũng có thể nhập cái mã mời là HJNWK này giúp mình. Ở đây nó sẽ có 2 mục, một là email, 2 là số điện thoại. Thì mọi người có thể đăng ký theo cái nào cũng được. Đó, sau khi đăng ký xong ấy, cái link sự kiện này thì mình cũng sẽ để ở dưới phần mô tả của video luôn. Sau khi mà mọi người bấm vào cái đường link này xong thì nó sẽ ra một cái giao diện của cái sự kiện này. Thì mọi người sẽ click vào cái nút tham gia này giúp mình. Ok, chúng ta sẽ kéo xuống dưới. Ở đây nó sẽ có các cái nhiệm vụ như sau. Sau khi chúng ta hoàn thành các cái nhiệm vụ này thì chúng ta sẽ nhận được các cái phần quà tương ứng. Đầu tiên sẽ là cái nhiệm vụ là 10 USDT. Cái này thì là đạt khối lượng giao dịch trên 200 USDT này và thực hiện nạp đồng trên 100 đô. Tức là mọi người sẽ nạp hoặc là mua P2P, nạp từ sàn khác lớn hơn hoặc bằng 100 USDT. Và giao dịch cái khối lượng ấy, cái này là giao ngay nhá. Mọi người có thể trade một vài lệnh như kiểu là trade BTC, mua đi bán lại. Làm sao mà cái khối lượng giao dịch của mọi người lớn hơn hoặc bằng 200 USDT là mọi người sẽ nhận được 10 đô, 10 USDT tiền tươi. Cái phần thưởng thứ hai đó là 5 USDT này. Cái này thì nó sẽ yêu cầu là cái khối lượng giao dịch future. Thì mọi người sẽ chuyển cái USDT của mình từ ví spot sang ví future. Và mọi người giao dịch có thể là một cái đồng BTC. Đánh đòn 7 x5, 100 đô x5 là sẽ 500 USDT. Thì mọi người sẽ nhận thêm là 5 USDT. Cái thứ ba ấy, thì là yêu cầu cũng là cái khối lượng giao dịch future thôi. Cái này thì đây này, ví dụ 100 đô đúng không? 100 đô thì tầm x20. Thì là cái volume của mình sẽ đủ là 2.000 USDT. Sau đó thì mọi người đóng lệnh luôn. Thì mọi người sẽ nhận thêm 10 USDT tiền tươi nữa. Mọi người lưu ý là cái quy tắc tham gia này, đấy chỉ áp dụng cho người dùng đăng ký tham dự event thông qua cái giới thiệu của KOL, tức là cái link giới thiệu của bên mình. Đó, giới hạn cho tối đa là 100 người tham gia sớm nhất, cho nên là anh em tranh thủ kéo hết slot. Ok. Chúc anh em thành công.
Running out of time, my last question relates exactly what you said, and I want to get each of your opinion on it. To me, stablecoins, agents, this is the future of commerce on the internet. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. So, how do you guys look at this idea of balancing out how we can build systems that allow for smooth and easy payments at the micro level, and know that the traditional financial system also says, no, but what about all of our fees? Right? We want those back. But we are reinventing a new way of commerce, a new way of engaging with each other. So just give us, final thoughts. I'll start with you, Nicolas, on what it means to bring agents, stablecoins, decentralized AI networks together and build the apps of the future. You have 30 seconds.
Okay, so I think that I will take this as follows. I will say that people need to build great apps, great products. Once you have the great product, it will trump everything else. And in order for you to do this, you need to have a lot of trials, and today is a great time with generative AI, where there's a lot more people who can create and try products. So networks that have a lot of people will naturally be able to have a competitive advantage in being able to empowering them and creating a lot of different products and a lot of different value. So by having value, eventually you're going to convince everyone else to accept it.
All right, David?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of going back to the internet in the mid-90s analogy, I think that stablecoins has really been a foundation that's been laid now for a decade plus. I mean, it's a core piece of technology in the agentic system that I think that decade was really critical for. So I think you're going to see, an explosion in AI agents over, the next couple of years. And figuring out the right transition to like fully autonomous agents outside of kind of control and authorization will be interesting, and there'll be blowups. But I think it's going to be really exciting for the next couple months or couple years.
Eric, agents, payments, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think payments are like under the core of so much of what we're trying to get at here. What we're trying to build, we call it AITP, which is sort of our agent interaction and transaction protocol, and it's how agents can pass structured data to other agents. But that includes payment instructions. And we think the way that that can succeed is, first of all, like, don't think of it as just crypto payments. Build in all the features of fiat payments, rewards, credit, dispute resolution, all done via AI. And things you can't do in the fiat world, like revenue share and affiliate revenue that hits everybody along the path of whoever made that transaction possible, even if it's a quarter of a cent's worth. That gets everybody incentivized to move from the fiat rails onto the crypto or the stablecoin rails. I think that's, and so like, then you build from there. You're starting to convince those AIs to move on to the AITP or whatever the crypto payment rail is going to be.
Lei, bring us home.
Sure. So agents, stablecoin, right? And enterprise. So first of all, I think partnering with enterprises is key because they have the mass distribution users, and they always think about building in a sustainable way. Revenue is not bad, and that's something that the whole industry does need to really work towards. I think a way to position charging fees is there's always a way to have some type of fee split or revenue share, or way to give back to the users that are using a lot of those stablecoin products.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you all so much for this. It was wonderful. Thank you for just being in the audience and listening to us. And follow these people.